Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello.
Darn it. I don't know why sometimes I just like to mimic you saying, hey now.
Yeah, I'll throw you off, everybody. I'll throw you off. All right, let me keep going with this. Well, first, let me tell you about Noto Roofing. Love Noto Roofing, as you well know. NOTOroofing.com, free roof inspection. Complimentary roof tune-up. Those of you out there in the audience, man, y'all go to Noto in droves, and I appreciate that. And it's, it's one of those things that everybody's got to do. I mean, if you're a homeowner or you are a landlord or you own a business that's got a roof, you got the barns and, any kind of structure that's got a roof, you need to get it checked. Noto will do it free of charge, no hassle, no pressure, and they'll give you a complimentary roof tune-up, as you know. So call them up. Make sure you tell them I sent you. I'm good friends with those guys. So they'll take care of you. Just consider it a referral. It's a referral. I'm telling you, you're my friend, and I'm telling you about my other friend who does roofing stuff. So that's what we got going on here. 205-848-2299. That's 848-2299. And online, NotoRoofing.com. Yeah. Y'all hit them up. Let them know I sent you. So, you heard Trump's response to the attacks and his comments on the retaliatory attacks. But when it comes, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, when it comes to Trump's attitude towards Iran at this point, and that was reiterated in the Q&A with reporters that you just heard, I'm getting the vibe that he is fed up. He is absolutely fed up with Iran. And he's mentioned, hey, my negotiators are out there and they're doing the best they can and blah, blah, blah. But we're dealing with sick and twisted people. We're dealing with crazies. And when he was asked about it earlier this morning, in Turkey, as he's been there a couple of days now, he said this.
It's a very interesting question. To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. I'll speak to our negotiators. They want to negotiate. They're good people. Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. But they have to come back to me. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a waste of time dealing with them. They're liars. We make a deal. And if I make a deal with him, we have a deal. And he goes out, he talks. We make a deal. Everyone's agreed. No nuclear weapon. We make a deal. They go outside, talk to the press. They say, we never even talked about it. There's something wrong with them. They're cuckoo. As far as I'm concerned, it's over.
Talks won't resume after we get through the funeral proceedings. Does this mean that talks with Iran will not resume?
I don't care. They can talk, but I think they're wasting their time. They're a bunch of lying guys. I do my whole life. That's all I do is deals. My whole life that's how I became president. I guess that's a deal too, right? But I made a lot of money. I had a lot of great success, tremendous success. Everything I did, I was successful. And I deal with these guys, and I say, this is from a different school. They're liars. They're cheats. They're sick people. They've hurt their people. They killed 54,000 people as of now that were protesting. When people say, how come they haven't taken over? They can't take over because they're dead. They killed them. Nobody's going to take over. They have no guns, and the other side has machine guns. And they're killing them. The press doesn't report it. But they're bad people. They're bad people. And frankly, I don't want to waste my time with them. Now, I'll let our wonderful negotiators keep talking if they want, but I don't see it. I don't like these people.
No, we don't. We and that, again, that right there tells me that Trump is is done with him. He says the ceasefire with Iran is over. And, my negotiators are going to go out there and they're going to do their thing. And I'm sure they're going to want to continue to try and negotiate. But ultimately, they've got to come back to me. They got to come back to me and say, hey, we did this, and this. And I don't think he's going to go for it. I think, and I've said this before, what you're dealing with in Iran is still a very fractured situation to where they don't have full control over the Strait of Hormuz. And I'm talking about the government and the head of parliament and all these things. That they just don't have the ability. Because if you'll recall, it wasn't, but at the beginning of this entire ceasefire deal, the latest one that was laid out, we even got a message from the gay Ayatollah who said, he said, Allahu Akbar, and blah, 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 all the normal, Islam jargon. And essentially, and I'm trying to pull this out from memory, but he basically said, I told the heads of state and the heads of government that we will accept this deal, but if the U.S. tries to push us and tries to, go some route with rolling over our red lines, whatever they may be, then we're not going to put up with it. It was kind of tough talk, but it was also, hey, I told our negotiators that they could cut the deal with the U.S. negotiators. And since then, there has not been anything on our behalf that has been done to Iran that was not retaliatory. I think this is the second retaliatory strike since the ceasefire began, but this one was different for Trump. Something has changed to where he says he's sick of it. He's sick of the way that they're acting in public, which is to be, we knew that was going to happen. Like, we knew they were going to go out there and give a completely different description of what happened. We knew that. We knew that they were going to go out there and lie their ass off about what deal was struck, what's the contents of the deal, what they said to us, what we said to them. They're going to lie about it. They're going to tell their people, and really they're trying to tell the rest of the world, because they're trying to get the rest of the world to view themselves as the good guys, and the big devil and the little devil, the U.S. and Israel, as the bad guys. But behind the scenes, they were actually cutting deals. And because of this, we basically, in the midst of that deal, said, hey, you're going to have to find a way to leave the strait alone. Because you got to remember, it's not about whether or not we say the strait's open, and if they do something, then we just retaliate and knock this missile launcher out or do that or the other. It's about the willingness of the ships, their willingness to go through the Strait of Hormuz and risk being shot. It's the willingness of the ship operators or the company or the country that it's coming from, but it's also the willingness of the insurance company to insure these boats at a reasonable rate for them to go through there. And I think, as Donald Trump tries to, and I understand why, he tries to play off the importance of gas prices to make sure people understand that this is completely surrounding the idea of Iran having a nuclear weapon. The gas price stuff and the oil prices are still very important to Donald Trump. And that's why I think this was a crossing of the red line for him, because it was yet again another shot at the free flow of oil. And on top of that, we had given them so much in good faith. We had lifted the blockade. We allowed them to start getting their oil out there to sell to the rest of the world while keeping some sanctions still in place, but giving them a little bit of a lifeline because they seem to be acting like they were ready to play ball. And maybe they are, but they just don't have a handle on the situation when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz. Maybe the negotiators were not privy to the fact that, Muhammad and his gang of sand dwellers are on the beach firing off missiles at, the cargo ships, at LNG vessels or whatever. So we'll see. We'll see. We can take what Donald Trump says and try to draw conclusions from it. But I think you're about to see a big shift in what's going on in Iran because Donald Trump is not going to drag this out, and he certainly doesn't want to drag it out to the midterms, even though it seems to have taken a little bit of a back seat because the attention span of Americans only goes so far, and the gas prices are coming down. He still doesn't want this thing lingering in November. So we'll watch and see, man. It's going to be a day-to-day, if not hour-by-hour situation. We got that. We got Graham Plattner. We got a lot of stuff in your phone calls. 205-545-9950 will get you in. All that and more coming up. Alabama Men's Clinic. AlabamaMen'sClinic.com. Still feeling good, guys. Still feeling good after starting my my testosterone treatments a couple weeks ago. A little over a couple weeks. Or does when did I start? Is it 3 weeks this Friday? I think it might be 3 weeks already. And I'm already telling the difference. I haven't gotten I go 8 weeks and so like what do you say, like 4 weeks from now, 4 or 5 weeks from now, I'll go get tested again to see where it's at. But um I feel like I can feel a difference already in a very short amount of time. Now everybody's gonna be different, your levels are gonna be different, but it's been if this is what happens, and I'm on the front end of this, and if getting very mild effects from what's to come, man, I'm very excited about getting back on track and feeling like myself again. I think that's right around the corner. Now, this could be the case for you. You could be feeling better. One thing I've noticed the most, and I told you guys I would kind of keep you updated on this journey. One thing I've noticed the most is I'm not so utterly exhausted in the mornings. Like when I wake up and I'm putting the show together, there were mornings there for a long time where I was just straight struggling, dude. I mean, it was miserable. Now, I could usually get here on the show and pick it up and have that energy I needed to get through, but between wake up and get to the show, I was like a zombie. An absolute zombie. And now I feel like, I may start waking up early. Trish really wants me to go on the back porch and drink some coffee with her in the morning before she starts working. And I've never really done that before because I just suck in the mornings. But I may start doing that now. And that's what I'm saying. For you guys out there, you could be living your best life, and all it takes is a trip to Alabama Men's Clinic to get tested to see where your T levels are at. There are so many guys out there, and I was one of them, that had no idea that my testosterone was low, because it's not just about what most people think it's just about ED. It's not. It's about like a lot of things and just how you generally feel. So you may not be suffering from the obvious symptoms, but you just have low T, and so it makes you feel like crap. Get with it, man. Set you an appointment. You can do it easily on the website. Take you 30 seconds to hook it up, or you can call them. Just make sure whatever you do, let them know I sent you. You'll probably see my boy Jeremy up there. He'll take care of you. All the guys up there are great. It's no pressure. It's very laid back, and there's no reason to be embarrassed or ashamed or any of that. They'll get you taken care of, man. Get in the game, man. Live your best life. You'll appreciate it. Your wife will appreciate it. Your kids are going to appreciate it. Your coworkers, because you're going to be more pleasant to be around. Don't you want that? Don't you want that for everybody? 205-598-7000. That's 205-598-7000. Online, AlabamaMen'sClinic.com. AlabamaMen'sClinic.com. So outside of Iran and NATO and all that kind of stuff, a lot of people across the country, and this may seem silly to some because it's Maine, and what does Maine have to do with us? But it is a Senate seat. It's 1 out of 100 senators that, make some very important decisions on Capitol Hill. The Maine Senate seat, for the Democrats in particular, is really up in the air. Democrats have come out and they have said, Graham Plattner, you got to go. You got to go. And they're even threatening, like Democrat leadership is threatening to not fund him whatsoever, saying, we're not going to give you any money. We're not going to give you any support. If you stay in the race, because he can, it's his decision. They say, if you stay in the race, we're not going to help you at all. I think Graham Plattner probably knows enough to know that they actually wouldn't do that. Like if they, which money's a little tighter in Democrat politics within the Democrat Party, now that their fraud schemes are being shut down, like USAID, now that people are looking into Act Blue and things like that. But he knows just as well as the rest of us know that they're not just going to let a Senate seat flail. Like, if there's even a 1% chance that they could pick up a Senate seat, they're going to do what they can, whether that's election fraud or funding or whatever. So while the Democrat Party thinks that they have Plattner by the balls and that they're calling the shots, Plattner's actually got all the pull in this situation. Because if he decides to stick it out, Democrats are not going to have a choice but to support him. You've excused everything else that he's done. Why wouldn't you just excuse this? What's another rape, right? What's another sexual assault on the record? Make excuses. It's not a big deal. Democrats have always, you guys are great at making excuses. Like, this is your thing. This is your skill. This is what brought you to the dance. So why stop now? I don't get it. The head of the Maine Democrats, I guess the chairwoman, if you will, she's the director of the Maine Democrat Party. She put out a video explaining what exactly the status is when it comes to Graham Plattner and saying that they're actually pushing back. This is crazy. That the Plattner campaign is pushing back and saying, hey, yeah, we might step down, but we want to be the ones to pick the replacement.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to provide you all an update on the U.S. Senate race here in Maine. As you know, the Maine Democratic Party has been working around the clock to develop a process to replace our U.S. Senate nominee that is open, inclusive, transparent, and fair. The integrity of this process is just as important as the outcome, and we are committed to ensuring that Democrats across our state can have confidence in both. Unfortunately, Graham Plattner's team has repeatedly reached out to us in an attempt to put their thumb on the scale of what this process looks like. We have repeatedly reiterated to Graham Plattner's team that they have no role in determining our next Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate, nor in determining what this process looks like. We have also reiterated that Graham Plattner must drop out of this race so that Democrats in Maine can focus on defeating Susan Collins this November. We look forward to making this process public as soon as Graham Plattner formally withdraws from this race.
It feels a little weird to pull for Graham Plattner at this point, but I think that's where I'm at.
That's a smart move, I think.
I think I want him to stick it out. I know I want him to stick it out. And what he wants to do is make sure he picks a socialist to replace him. And the Democrat Party in Maine's like, I don't think we can win. So, what does the main Democrat Party want to do? Like, who they want to replace Graham Plattner with? They think that, and granted, I don't think the Democrat Party as a whole wants to go down this road of socialism. Maybe they do. A lot of them do. But I think some of the old heads in the Democrat Party think it's a recipe for disaster, but they're too afraid to speak up. When they see what happens in New York and in Colorado and in a couple of other areas where they have elected straight up socialists, they're afraid to alienate part of their base. And the Democrats have, as of late, over the past few years, have garnered this strange obsession with pandering to some of the smallest portions of their base. And it doesn't make a lot of sense unless it's simply optics to say, oh, well, we care about these people, and other people latched on to the fact that we care, and that's why, our 80-year-old candidate got 81 million votes or whatever. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. It's just one of those things. But who would Maine want to replace Graham Plattner with? They obviously don't want Plattner's pick. If Plattner's even given him a pick, they don't trust his judgment. Plus, they don't want that doo-doo stain on the candidate itself, because it will then be known that Plattner picked the guy. And they say, well, there's a rapist picked our candidate and blah, 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 blah. Wouldn't necessarily be a good look. But again, you've made excuses for the guy thus far. What's another sexual assault? What's the big deal? The talk of who it would be has popped up in reports and anonymous sources. And one of the top names that's being floated is a guy named Troy Jackson. Troy Jackson is a far-left Maine Democrat who also ran for governor of the state at one time. So he's somewhat known, but there's a problem with Troy Jackson. Troy Jackson has allegations of assault against women as well. So the question would be, is the Democrat Party just like, do they not have anybody that's not a womanizer, rapist, sexual abuser? Did you run out of non-rapists in the party? Or what is it? You just don't have any non-creeps? It's just a bunch of Bidens and Swalwells and Jeffrey Toobins, sexual deviants. You can't make this up, though. Amazingly enough, these allegations against Jackson were uncovered and published by a leftist group who doesn't want Democrats to either, one, make the same mistake they did with Planter, or two, they don't think this guy's socialist enough. Not sure. Here's what the report says. The far-left group Progressive Victory is unveiling a troubling allegation against a potential candidate to replace Graham Plattner in Maine's Senate race, alleging that this individual, quote, struck a female colleague with a bottle he threw at her during a disagreement, which has been corroborated by several witnesses. Given this, the far-left group Progressive Victory is seeking out other candidates. However, they've run into some trouble with one possibility: Troy Jackson, former president of the Maine Senate. Quote, in our discussions, we have received troubling information about not only Jackson's behavior, but the behavior of many prominent Maine Democrats towards women more broadly. So, yeah, they actually do have an issue with finding non-scumbags. It revealed Jackson allegedly struck a female colleague with a bottle, quote, both as a result of the credibility of the sources and in the interest of not seeing our movement make the same mistake twice. We are choosing to share some of this now. As Maine Senate president in a state Senate caucus meeting several years ago, Troy Jackson, in a heated disagreement, struck a female colleague with a bottle he threw at her. There are many witnesses, and it appears this is a widespread open secret within Maine politics and not an isolated incident. This information is still developing, and we will provide updates in a thread in the comments of this post as we receive it. Well, what are you going to do? What can you do? Well, you just got a bunch of abusers in our party, and sometimes you just don't have a non-creep. Sounds to me like you need to just stick it out with Plattner. I say do it. Again, I think Plattner holds all the cards here. The Democrats are not going to isolate this guy. They're not just going to throw their hands up and say, well, we lost the Senate seat in Maine. They are more hungry for control of the Senate now than they've ever been. And logical people would say to themselves, hey, why don't you just take a step back and try to piece your party back together and try to stop this dangerous road you're going down? Because Donald Trump's only got 2 years left. But that's not how they think. Their brains are broken. They are sick, twisted, demented people that even outside of destroying Donald Trump are looking to destroy your country. That's ultimately what they want. And the one thing stopping them is, you guessed it, Donald J. Trump. So, in the meantime, they're going to destroy their own party, which I'm fine with. I've often said that the way to defeat these people is to dismantle the Democrat Party as a whole. You've really got to, because it's become so utterly dangerous to the country that it needs to be beaten down, buried, and to never return and maybe come back as something else. How does that happen? I don't know. Lose a handful more elections, have a sweeping win by Republicans this year, and in 2028, a J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio ticket wins, and also wins the House and the Senate again. That seems like a stretch, because it would be hard to pull that off according to history. But if you're the Democrat Party and you're sitting in your office at the Capitol, wherever, or say you're at a pizza party where Obama's brought 50,000 hot dogs, or wherever you're at, and it's early 2029, and you're sitting there, and J.D. Vance is president, Marco Rubio's vice president, Republicans have a super majority in the House and the Senate. You got to look at your Democrat colleagues, and first, you say, what kind of pizza do we have? But second, you say, this is not working. We got to do something. Or maybe it takes the Democrats' own version of a Tea Party, which I think that may be what this socialist movement in a less organized way might just be. I think the rise of socialism in the Democrat Party is their Tea Party. The difference between the Republican Tea Party and the Democrats' Tea Party is, one, obviously socialism, but two, the Democrat Party has embraced their Tea Party. The Republican Party did not embrace the Tea Party. No, sir. Far from it. they look to destroy the Tea Party. Democrats, on the other hand, they think, well, socialism's bad, but not as bad as Donald Trump. And so here we are. So we'll see. Anyway, I say all that to say, Graham Plattner, keep it up, buddy. You got it. You got it. We need more sickos in the Democrat Party running for office. Like James Talarico. James Talafrico. Keep it up. Keep it up, you freaks. We need more Democrats that are just straight up weirdos. You know, Talarico actually, he had this, throughout his political career, he's had this bizarre fascination with trans kids. And it's the kind of thing where you would probably, like, if this guy lived next to you and you were constantly hearing him talk about trans kids, you'd probably call police, right? You'd say, hey, you might want to go check this guy's browser history. But he has always talked about, he's been very big on that. Well, he's recently found out that it is not very popular. In particular, surgery on children, trans surgery. He found that out and he's decided, hey, I'm not for transgender surgery for children. He just like that, changed his mind. It's amazing. And so that's his new stance, because Texas, you know, even though Texas has got its Democrat sections, Texans think they think that's kind of weird. And so he backed off from that. He said, no. I support the trans community and I support trans children, but I don't support trans surgeries before the age of 18. And that's fine. You know, politicians flip-flop and go back and forth. But what's weird is after he has distanced himself from trans surgery for children, he has hit the campaign trail with a doctor that performs trans surgeries on children. As somebody that's, you know, part of his campaign now. It's very weird. It's very strange. Listen to this story. Democrat Senate candidate James Talafrico is facing questions after fundraising with a, quote, female-to-male top surgeon who previously operated on minors shortly after saying that he does not support same-sex or support sex change surgeries for children. Talarico, a progressive Democrat, state lawmaker, and Presbyterian seminarian, is running a highly competitive race to flip a Texas Senate seat for the first time in decades. He is opposing Republican State Attorney General Ken Paxton. The seat's critical to both parties' hopes of holding a Senate majority this next session. During an appearance on the Unity Over Division podcast on June 8th, Talarico responded to criticisms that he supports gender transition for minors by stating, quote, I oppose gender reassignment surgeries for minors. Okay. Days later, not a year later, not 5 years later, not 10 years later, but just a few days later, he participated in an Austin Pride for Talarico fundraiser that featured Dr. Dustin Reed, a female-to-male breast surgeon who confirmed with Fox News Digital that he previously operated on minors prior to Texas banning the practice. He said that he no longer performs these surgeries in line with Texas law. He said that his participation in the event in support of Talarico, he participated in the event to show his support for Talarico. He said that, quote, in the past, on a case-by-case basis, I would do that female-to-male surgeries on minors, but not since they made it illegal in Texas, end quote. There's plenty of reasons to oppose Talarico's candidacy, but this one, for Texans, could be your go-to. You probably don't need to know much more other than he's with a trans surgeon. hitting the campaign trail with somebody that wants to chop up little kids, all their private parts. Well, but it's okay though. He's just a top surgeon. He just removes breasts for female to male. These people are sick. Democrats are sick. And they keep putting up freaks, man. Freaks. 205-545-9950. Let's keep it rolling. More of the line. Coming up. Oh, finally, I agree with Ken, the lib. He says on the text line, Maine Democrats need to hold on to their rapists.
Wow.
Look at that. He follows that just like racist MAGA held on to theirs.
Ah, okay.
Racist MAGA rode
There we go, the old talking point.
Rode their rapist all the way to the White House. Right. Listen. If Donald Trump had actually, if any of that would have actually happened, Donald Trump would have been done for long ago. Remember what I said the other day? When it comes to a Republican that has a scandal breakout, everyone from the politicians to the supporters are expected to immediately denounce that individual, especially in today's day and age, because everybody's walking on pins and needles, waiting for the latest scandal for their candidate to break out. You as a conservative are expected to denounce anybody once there's proof of said scandal, whatever that scandal may be. Could be touching kids, could be, beating women, sexual assault, whatever. You are immediately to denounce that individual. Not accusations by crazy people like E. Jean Carroll, who's an absolute lunatic. I'm talking about actual cases that can be corroborated. You want to talk about with the sexual assault allegation against Trump with E. Jean Carroll or anybody else for that matter? Do you know what the one consistent thing is in those instances? Is that there's nobody to corroborate them. It's just one person. It just came out of nowhere 20, 30 years later, 40 years later. That just happens to be funded by Democrat operatives. But you're expected to immediately denounce that individual, say if something pops up. On the other hand, Democrats get a pass. And Graham Plattner is only the latest example. He's not the only. I mean, it goes back and back. Look how long they tried to hang on to Eric Swalwell till they couldn't anymore. But Graham Plattner, boy, what a laundry list. He had sexual assault allegations. He had a Nazi tattoo. He had weird postings on Reddit. He was hanging out on websites for pedos and all this kind of stuff. And Democrats made excuse after excuse after excuse. Until finally another Democrat came out and said, actually, I want him to win because I like his ideas, but he raped me. And to show you how even in this case, yes, the people, the politicians that have endorsed Plattner up until this point have now backed away from it because they realize how toxic it is. There are still Democrats out there saying they will vote for Graham Plattner. And that, I hope that reinforces Graham Plattner's belief that he should stick it out. Even the lady, even the victim in this latest situation has friends who know she was assaulted. And they say, I'm so sorry that happened to you, but I'm still going to vote for Graham Plattner. Think about that. Think about that. Racist MAGA, racist MAGA, Trump's a rapist. Dude, all the evidence is out there. Like, the point has been made. And so some people are just going to continue to live in La La Land. That's fine. Be my guest. But there's no denying it, Coles. Ain't no denying it. If you want to get in, 205-545-9950. Coming up next, I don't know what's next. Could be anything. But I know we will have a wheel of segments and a whole lot of fun. Y'all hang tight.